period in which there was a lot of flourishing of understanding and education and exchange of knowledge. Of course, part of it began with Imam Muhammad Baqir alayhi afdal salatu wassalam. And it was at the period when there was also a change in the government between the Umayyads and the Abbasids. One of the things that we see when we examine this period, and particularly as we focus on the life of Imam Ja'far as-Sadiq alayhi salatu wasalam, because of course when we come to commemorate, one of the things that we must do is we must focus on the life and what we can take and what we can benefit from the life of the Imams alayhi salatu wasalam. We see that Imam Sadiq, he was an individual, or he was a figure within Islamic history that played a very pivotal role. He was a point of focus and also a point of unity as well. In fact, every Muslim, no matter what their denomination is, no matter what their affiliation is in Islam, they are all in debt to Imam Ja'far as-Sadiq alayhi salatu wasalam. So what is it about Imam Sadiq when we look at his life and we analyze the life of Imam Sadiq that makes him such an important figure in Islamic history, no matter what a person claims to be, whether they claim to be a follower of the Ahlul Bayt, a follower of the Imams, or not. And we see that on one hand, from the life of the Imam, his lineage, this makes him also a very important figure. And on the other hand, from the point of view of his, you could say, academic life or life as a scholar and what he contributed to the development of Islam. From the point of view of his family, we see that Imam Sadiq alayhi salatu wasalam, that his mother was Farwa. Farwa is the daughter, Bint Muhammad. The mother of Imam Sadiq is the daughter of Muhammad, who is the son of Abu Bakr. In the Muslim world at that time, no matter what side of the coin the person was on, when they looked towards Imam Sadiq, they had some sort of inclination to him that, well, at least he is the grandson from one side of the first Khalifa. But more importantly, he was also the grandson of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. The son of Muhammad ibn Ali ibn al-Husayn ibn Ali wa Fatima alayhim salatu wasalam. That he is the son of Imam Baqir, who is the son of Imam Zayn al-Abidin, Ali ibn Azim, who is the son of Imam Hussein, who is the son of Ali and Fatima. In fact, when we look at the title, or at least one of the titles that was given to Imam Sadiq alayhi salatu wasalam, and this makes no difference which books of history you go to, he was addressed as Yabn Rasulullah, as the son of Rasulullah, to denote his lineage from the Prophet. So from this angle or this aspect, the Imam is very important. Not only this, when the Imam, he actually marries, and this is very important because at that time, the time of the Imam Sadiq alayhi wasallam, the Islamic domain, meaning the countries that were under Islam and the Muslims, this empire was growing. It was expanding out towards what is called the Maghrib, even up into, which is part of North Africa, and also the Maghrib, according to more correct interpretations, when you study it, it also goes towards West Africa as well. However, at the time of Imam Sadiq, it only covered the northern part of Africa. And so Imam Sadiq, his wife, was from the Maghrib. She was Barbara. Yeah. Amazigh. Yeah, she's Berber. Yeah. She was Berber. So Imam Sadiq alayhi wasalam, not only from the point of view of his lineage, also in his engagement, in his connection and making connections, he becomes a very important figure, because even at one point we find also in the Maghrib the awlad of Nabi, that there was a dynasty that they connected themselves and to the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salatu wasalam, that they considered themselves in one aspect followers of Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad. One group was, yes, Fatimiyya, one group was Ismaili, but nonetheless, they connected themselves to the Ahlul Bayt. And Imam Sadiq was this key figure in Islamic history. That's to do with his lineage and his family life, that why he was an important figure, and why, to some extent, that every Muslim need to understand who Imam Sadiq alayhi wasallam is. Everyone is indebted to him. With regards to his knowledge and his teaching and his education, we find that Imam Sadiq alayhi wasallam, that he is the one who laid the platform for Islamic law. He is the one who laid this platform. On one hand, we find that he is the teacher of Anas ibn Malik. Anas ibn Malik, he comes and he studies with Imam Sadiq. He studies with other individuals. One of the persons that it is recorded that Anas ibn Malik he has studied with is Abu Hanifa, Nu'man ibn Thabit, also known as Abu Hanifa. But Abu Hanifa himself was also a student of Imam Sadiq alayhi wasallam. During the month of Ramadan, we mentioned and we examined the hadith of Unwan Basri, who was an individual, an elderly man of 94 years old, that he studied with Anas ibn Malik, the founder, as they say, of the Maliki school of fiqh, that he studied with him, but then he came and he studied with Imam Sadiq alayhi wasallam for a very short period. And what he benefited was the hadith that we mentioned. One of the things that we know for sure that he took from the Imam was that hadith, Unwan Basri. So we see this was a period in which there was a lot of flourishing. There was exchange of knowledge. The other two schools of thought, Shafi'i, so Muhammad ibn Idris al-Shafi'i, he was a student of Malik ibn Anas. And the fourth school of thought, which is from Ahmad ibn Hanbal, the Hanbali school of thought, he was a student of Muhammad ibn Idris al-Shafi'i. But if we examine this, that the point, or at least that starting point, or the most critical point in all of their education, in the founding of Islamic law and many of the Islamic sciences, is Imam Ja'far ibn Muhammad as-Sadiq alayhi salatu wassalam. So we see that he is a very key figure. And also, if you read the history of those who are inclined towards the mystical sciences, Tasawwuf or Irfan, whichever one you claim or whichever one a person is inclined to, again, when we look at the lineage of those individuals who the spiritual sciences have come from, in all of them they mention Ja'far ibn Muhammad as-Sadiq alayhi salatu wassalam. So this is the importance of the Imam. That he was someone who benefited everyone. He had a knowledge, he had understanding of the Quran, he had understanding of the life of Rasulullah. He lived by the life of Rasulullah, even to the extent that as we mentioned before, that when Anas ibn Malik, he would often go to Imam Sadiq, sometimes at his private home, that Anas ibn Malik himself, he says that whenever Ja'far ibn Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam, Imam Sadiq, whenever he wanted just to recite a hadith of Rasulullah, he would make wudu. That he wouldn't recite a hadith, a word, a statement from the Prophet without wudu. This is the point that, again, how, if someone's noticing this thing which may seem very small, may seem very simple, but it is important. And how the Imam, he taught and he educated the Ummah. One of those things which we can benefit from the Imam is what I mentioned in the beginning. He says, لا يصلح المرء المسلم إلا بثلاث خصال. Now this can be translated in two ways. That yuslah, la yuslah, meaning that a Muslim, whether male or female, a Muslim would not be able to correct himself or herself or be righteous unless they had three qualities. Or we can translate it as it is only befitting for a Muslim, لا يصلح المرء المسلم إلا بثلاث خصال, meaning that it is only befitting that a Muslim or someone who is claiming that they're submitting to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that they have three traits, three qualities. And what are these three qualities and traits that are important for a Muslim to have? At first he says, التفقه في الدين. Secondly, التقدير في المعيشة. And third, الصبر على النائبة. He says the first is التفقه في الدين, to contemplate, to reflect, to educate oneself about one's religion, about one's faith, about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, about what they believe, and about what their duty and obligations are in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Meaning that we must have these traits. If we claim that we submit to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then we must know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We must know what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants from us. Because if we don't know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, nor do we know what He wants from us, then how can we truly submit to Him? How can we truly be Muslim? Yes, we may profess, and simply from our tongues, that we are Muslim, that we say, La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. But in our actions, we may fall short of that. Tafaqquh fi deen, it is the first step. It is the foundation. In fact, just the other day, I was asked by one individual, perhaps somewhat older than me, Muslim, wondering that, what is our... Why are we here? Why did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala create us? Now this question, it may seem simple. The question in and of itself is very profound, and the answer is even more profound, one that we cannot address in its entirety at this moment. But I'll just give some indication to it, particularly as Imam Sadiq alayhi salatu wasalam, he had indicated to some of his companions that when the verse was mentioned that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not create مَا خَلَقَ اللَّهُ الْإِنسِ وَالْجِنِّ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not create man and jinn except that they worship. He says, بَلْ لِيَعْرِفُونَ. He says, no, but what is actually meaning is that mankind and jinn, these creations of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, their goal in life and their purpose is to understand Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to gain ma'rifat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. As Imam Tariq, he mentioned that it's not just simply to have ilm, knowledge of Allah, but to gain ma'rifah, to connect with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because truly when an individual, when one who claims that he submits to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he knows Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he has ma'rifat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then truly he would want to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And when he knows Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he will know himself as well. He will know his purpose in life. Man arafa nafsahu faqad arafa rabbah, as the Prophet stated. That whoever knows himself will know his Lord. And likewise, and the one who gains knowledge of his Lord will know himself. And this is, again, like I said, it's a very profound concept and very, very profound understanding that to know oneself, to gain knowledge of self, would take you to gain knowledge of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And once you gain knowledge of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you will worship. But also, in order to gain knowledge of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it comes through worship as well. Ad-darajat. And understanding your worship. Not simply going through the motions of worship, going through the motions of the salat. Or just going through the motions of waking up for suhoor and fasting. No. Understanding what these acts of worship are. Understanding what benefits that worship has for me. Understand how that worship is developing me and cultivating oneself. And then you will gain ma'rifat. You have knowledge, ma'rifat of oneself, ma'rifat also of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The second thing which a Muslim must have, as Imam Sadiq alayhi salatu wasalam, he stated, he says, at-taqdeeru fil ma'isha. To have a plan for life. To plan out your life, to plan, to work, to gain your sustenance, to go forth, to take care of oneself, take care of one's family, to take care of one's community. At-taqdeeru fil ma'isha. Yes, everything is in the hands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He will give us our sustenance, but at the same time, we have to go forth, we have to make effort, we have to plan. And understand that that effort and that planning and engaging in that act of trying to secure and obtain our sustenance, it in itself is also ibadah. We find this throughout the hadith of the Prophet and the Ahlul Bayt alayhim afdhalu salatu wasalam, where they say that talabul ma'isha ibadah. Perhaps not in those same words, but this is the gist of what they say, that seeking one's sustenance is ibadah, it's worship. Because when an individual seeks it in the proper way, seeking that which is halal, that which is permissible, with the understanding and ma'rifat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He has placed this sustenance in your hand. He's placed it at your reach. That it is a blessing from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So a person would seek that sustenance and also thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for that sustenance which he or she has obtained. The third aspect or characteristic that a Muslim must have, as the Imam, he states, he says, وَالصَّبْرُ عَلَى النَّائِبَةِ. And perhaps we can say, although from this particular hadith in itself, it does not make this illusion, but from other contexts and other statements from the Ahlul Bayt alayhim afdhalu salatu wasalam, that perhaps this is one of the most important things. As-sabru ala na'iba. An-na'iba is the journey and the travel. The difficulties, what Imam he's indicating at. Because an individual on his journey or in his journey or her journey in life, yes, you may face difficulties. Whether it be difficulties in trying to understand one's religion and faith, tafaqquh fi ad-din, or fi taqdeer al-ma'isha. there will be difficulties. So a person must have patience with whatever challenges that he or she may face in trying to gain knowledge and understanding of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and one's faith, and also in trying to secure and obtain one's sustenance. And this is also why Imam Sadiq, he states, he says, "Man la yu'idda sabra li nawa'ib ad-dahri ya'jiz." He says, the person who does not prepare patience for the difficulties of time, he says, that person, he will be ya'jiz. He will be incapable. He will fail. He won't succeed in what he's trying to do. And this is just a small example of the teachings of Imam Sadiq alayhi salatu wasalam. Just a few words, but so profound. And when we look at the life of Imam Sadiq and we again come across these beautiful gems, statements that the Imam has made, the way he lived, the way he interacted with the Ummah, then when we think about what happened on perhaps a night like this, in a day like this, on the 25th of Shawwal, that the Imam was poisoned, that someone wanted to take the life of Imam Sadiq, that someone who is the teacher and the masters of the Muslimin, someone that everyone has a connection with in the Islamic Ummah, that imagine what a moment could have been like, that the life of this man is taken by someone who is envious, someone who is jealous, someone who poisons the Imam. Imagine the loss that the Ummah felt at that moment and at that time. It's stated that one of the companions of Imam Sadiq alayhi salatu wasalam, he went to visit the Imam while he was in his last days, lying upon his bed, firash al-maut. He said that when I entered and I saw the Imam in the state that he was in, he says, I could not help myself. فَبَقَيْتُ بَقَاءً شَدِيدًا, that I began to cry profusely. But the Imam himself, he looked towards me. He says, لِمَاذَا تَبَقِي, that why are you crying? He said, شلون ما أبكي وأشوف إمامي على فراش الموت. He says, how do I not cry? How do I hold my tears back when I see my Imam, when I see my master, when I see my teacher? He's on his deathbed. How can I hold these tears back? But look at the response of the Imam, still constantly teaching, even while he's on his deathbed. He told him, he says, وَمَا أُرِدَ عَلَى الْمُؤْمِنِ وَخَيْرٌ لَهُ. He says that whatever the believer is given, then it is the best thing for him. He says, وَإِنْ قُطِعَتْ أَعْضَاؤُهُ أَوْ أُعْتَى مَا فِي الْمَشْرِقِ وَالْمَغْرِبِ فَهُوَ خَيْرٌ لَهُ. He says that even if the believer, if he is given whatever is in the east and the west, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives it to him, that's the best thing for him. He says, and even if the believer, the mu'min, he has his limbs cut from his body, he says, this is khayrun lah. Perhaps this was an indication that if the mu'min, the believer, the one who truly submits to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the one who truly believes in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and who, again, stands for justice, that even if his limbs are cut, then this is the best thing for him. That perhaps he is making indication to his grandfather, Aba Abdullah al-Husayn. Perhaps he's making indications to his uncle, Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas, who both fell in the plains of Karbala, who had their limbs cut, particularly Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas having his right arm and his left arm cut. And then all of the children, the menfolk of the house of Rasulullah, having their heads decapitated. He says that because they stood for what is right and what is true, that they fortified their iman. وَهُوَ خَيْرٌ لَهُ. We pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala بحق هذه المجلس الجعفرية اغفر ذنوبنا واستر عيوبنا وقضي حوائجنا واشفي مرضانا وارحم أمواتنا وعجل فرج مولانا صاحب العصر والزمان واجعلنا من أعوانه وأنصاره والمستشهدين بين يديه وتحت لواء بحق محمد وآله الطاهرين. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد.
Thank you, Sheikh. Inshallah, we have about 3 or 4 minutes till salat time, so please, if you need to do wudu, go ahead. We'll have adhan very shortly. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.